What's going on, blockheads? In this video, I'm going to be starting my very own LEGO Minecraft world. This is a project I've been wanting to do for a very long time, and I'm very excited to get started on it. The goal of this project is to have a giant LEGO Minecraft mock where I can show different parts of the overworld, everything from the plains, villages, all the way to ice tundras, desert, etc. I decided I wanted to start my world making a little part of the plains village. That's probably the most recognizable village of the game, and I figured it'd be an easy way to dip my toe into this. Early on, I decided I wanted to make a modular kind of system for this project. I used 4 16x16 plates for each little module and connected them. That way I could work on each of them individually. This makes it easy to split apart. This is really handy if I need to transfer it, or just work on one individual module without having to break everything apart. I started working on the back left module first. I wanted to include this villager house that I made. So this is actually a game accurate villager house. I really enjoyed making this house, but something that bothered me was that I used stone on the outside and it didn't really match the cobblestone that you normally see in game. So I decided to tear all of this apart and replace it with a bunch of studs. This is actually really time consuming, mostly because I kept running out of these little stud pieces. This is a piece I thought I had tons and tons of, but it turns out I might need to make an order for it. And internally it doesn't look as nice as it used to, but it gets the job done. With the help of this easy modular system, it was really easy for me to just tear up some grass and put this house down. And that'll round out this part of the build. Next, I'm going to start in that other back quadrant. What I really want to see is a nice little farm for a farming villager. So I'm going to have to go to my box of shame, which is essentially just all my built Minecraft sets that I toss into one box, and go find some pieces. I'd like to have just a little humble farm here. I'm probably going to put some pumpkins in since Halloween's coming up, as well as a little bit of water for the crops. I'm building some oak fences on the sides. I might come back to that design a little bit later, but for now this should do. Seeing this little farm's just got me really excited to play the game. I don't know, something about this little nice homestead, just you, your house, and some square pumpkins, you know? Now I went ahead and started lining out a path. Eventually I planned to come and lower all of these plates down by a half plate, but more on that later. Then I came up with this little way of making an operational gate for the little villager to get in and out of his farm. The fence gate is a little bit fragile, but that's okay, we're going for aesthetics. It ain't the prettiest gate, but it's honest work. Now this seems like an appropriate time to explain what is going on with my little villager figure here. So you think it'd be very easy to do this, as both Minecraft and LEGO are based off of blocks, right? Wrong. Minecraft is based on a 1x1x1 system, while LEGO is based on a 1x1x3/5 system, meaning that a simple 2x2 LEGO brick is not a perfect cube, and to make it into one you have to add 2 plates to the top or bottom of it. For example, the bottom step of Minecraft stairs are half a block tall, so in order to make a block-accurate LEGO version, you will need to use some complex pieces like these brackets. The brackets can be used to offset LEGO by half a plate, and when arranged like this, you can build accurate stairs in LEGO. Pretty cool, right? Now, before I get into building the Minecraft shelter, I want to talk about the Minecraft minifigures. Personally, I think the official figures are almost perfect. However, they're a little too tall to fit into a block-accurate LEGO Minecraft world. Now, you might say that we should maybe make the LEGO blocks a little bit bigger and maybe do something like a 3x3x3 studded LEGO system. However, the figures would now be too small and it'd be pretty much impossible to make a perfect cube out of LEGO. So, 2x2 studs it is. This led me to try something I've never really seen before, and I designed a smaller version of my LEGO Minecraft characters to be almost more compatible with the block-accurate system. I kept Steve's head, but I put it on a double-sided snot brick, and added some purple plates for the legs, as well as some arms. This inspired me to make a few other mobs, so I made some villagers and even a cute little zombie. I'm pretty excited with how these turned out, and they're much closer to being a block-accurate, even if they're not actually. Next, I wanted to tackle the foreground. I didn't want to have too tall of structures, that way I'm not blocking the farm or the house. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and build a little shop. Now, we've seen LEGO make different versions of this shop before. Of course, none of them are block accurate. So I had to get a little creative with this. You can see I had to use some of these bracket pieces to get this effect, and I was even able to get them to balance on the oak posts. I had to use these 1x2 modified bricks with a hole in the center, and unfortunately that does leave a big hole at the top of the structure that I'm going to have to address eventually, but I am happy with it so far. Now, you eagle-eyed Minecraft nerds probably recognize that I totally messed this up. For one, it's actually 1 block too short, and second, I have the orientation of the roof the wrong way. But don't worry, I fixed it in the end. Off camera, I came up with a really fragile way of making a little meeting spot for the bell. Essentially, it's kind of floating there in space. It's not actually attached, which I think is pretty cool. I also added a few more details like a tree and some grass, and I think that almost rounds out the entire build. Like I mentioned before, I wanted to get those dark tan tiles at least a half stud lower than the plates around it. This meant I ended up having to tear up pretty much everything that the path was under and figure out a way to offset everything by half a stud using those bracket pieces I mentioned earlier. At this point, I was almost happy with my overworld build. However, I wasn't too thrilled with all the studs showing on top. Normally it doesn't bother me too much, but I just didn't think it looked that smooth. So I went ahead and ordered a whole bunch of 2x2 plates online. And while I was waiting on those parts, I decided let's go ahead and start building an underground to this. When I started this project, I was really anxious to build a mine shaft, so that's what we're going to start with. Now, I set myself up for a few rules for this build. Similar to the top world, I wanted to have a very modular-like cave system. That way I can move things around if I ever needed to. I also was going for a snot technique and trying not to have any studs showing, at least without going overkill. And again, I don't know why, but there's just something about the mine shafts in Minecraft that I really like, so I was very excited to try to build this. That made it really hard for myself when I tried to include an accurate rail cart system, but more on that later. You can see I used a lot of these masonry bricks and nougat. I think they do a great job of representing oak planks. I got very creative when it came to this and tossed Steve in there right away. Luckily, I had a pretty big bulk order of 2x4 gray bricks, and for some reason I just had a lot of 2x2 tiles. So it made this one easy to build. The idea is this module will be 8x8x8. 8 blocks in height, width, and in depth. I came up with this cool way of making these angled torches. I've actually seen a lot of Lego Minecraft mock builders struggle with these torches, and I was no different, but I came up with this idea of using the little minifigure stud and nougat there, and I was able to put a little candle piece and a little light at the end of it. My goal is to actually add lighting to my Lego Minecraft world, so I'm kind of planning ahead for it now, but you'll see later in the video I did come up with something a little wild. And now for the minecart rails. This was a pain. I think I might have spent maybe 3 or 4 hours until I finally came up with a method. I'm not even 100% happy with it, but I think this is the best I'm gonna get. So what I had to do was incorporate all of these little masonry bricks and then use those bracket pieces I mentioned earlier. So even though I have a ton of these 1x bracket pieces in nougat, it turns out Lego doesn't make its big brother over here in nougat, which is really unfortunate. So I had to use these small versions, which leaves these gaping holes all over it, but you know what? We're just gonna pretend they're not there, and I don't want to hear about it. I stole the design for this minecart from Cheesy Studios, I'm sure he won't mind. And I added this little chest in here as an award, and bonus, you can actually put things in it. Now I'm starting to work on the far back quadrant. I wanted a little bit more color in here, so I started adding some andesite, maybe diorite, one of the two. And I began putting in this iron ore. Again, I just wanted to add a little more color. I didn't want it to look like a Star Wars build where it's just all gray, so it's just mostly gray instead. I used a few brown blocks on top, that way it'll blend a little bit better with the overworld. Then I added some coal ore too. Just to give it that little bit of color, you know? You gotta Bob Ross these things sometimes. This part of the module ended up being pretty part heavy, and there wasn't a lot of room to put really anyone in there. I did sneak a skeleton somewhere in the back, but I thought it helped bring out a lot of depth in this build. I tiled off the tops and just put some jumpers on the corners of these two modules. And I was getting ahead of myself. Originally I wanted to wait till the end to put it on, but I really wanted to see how it looked with the village on top. Oh yeah, that's looking nice. Now I'm gonna be putting in Steve, a creeper, and a skeleton there in the back. I've actually made a lot of these mobs in these scales, so stay tuned for future videos where I show them off. Next I'll be working on the other back quadrant. For this one and the one in front of it, I want to leave a big hole, and that's because I eventually plan to put another level under this. Yes, you're hearing me right. I would like to put maybe something like the deep, dark, or one of the other like deeper cave systems under this. So for this level, mine shaft. The level under it, the world is our oyster. By this point in the build, I was running out of a lot of pieces and the colors I needed. For instance, you can see that those oak fences that are keeping the shaft up over there are not nougat like I'd like them to be. They're actually light tan. These Minecraft mocks are actually more parts intensive than I realized. Right above that, you can see I put in some granite blocks there just to, again, add a little bit of color to it. I do like the new treasure chest piece with a flat top, but unfortunately the handles on the side make it really hard to work with when it comes to building these Minecraft mocks. But if you're clever enough, there is a way you could hide those handles. And finally, we can get started with the very last module of this build. I want to keep up with that mineshaft theming here. I went ahead and built another deck that should be in line with the very first one we built. These two modules are a little bit more fragile than the first two just because of that giant hole in the center. I was able to add Technic bricks to secure them. Now, before we put it all together, my order finally came in from Lego. Now I can finally tile over these ugly stud pieces. There's just something super satisfying about having a Lego build with no actual visible Lego on it, right? Originally, I thought it was a little pretentious to have to tile everything over, but boy, does it make it look a lot smoother. No pun intended. I even put tiles over the leaves of the oak tree on the back. I think it makes a really nice effect. And finally, here it is, my little chunk of Minecraft Plains Village. It seems so small when you really compare it to the game, but I cannot believe this took me almost 2 weeks to build. I really enjoy showing off these little tiny chibi mobs, and I can't wait to expand this world out. I really enjoy these little builds like the trader's booth, the farm, the oak tree in the back. It just feels real cozy, right? And I'm very proud of this little village, but I think I'm even prouder of this underground cave. I just love the idea of these abandoned mine shafts, a creeper guarding the chest over there, and a skeleton shooting at you from across the map.
Now, I did run out of some pieces in some colors, so I did have to kind of play around with that a lot. And I do plan on coming back and fixing that later, but for now, I just wanted to show this off. I don't know, there's just something that's really peaceful and tranquil about this build. I am very excited to expand this out. I'm thinking about adding maybe a lush cave or maybe a dripstone cave next door, possibly a swamp, and maybe go for some of those Arctic regions later. And I'd like to know what you guys think. I'm thinking on the left side I can start to make a beach or maybe a river, but I would like to eventually add a really tall mountain range in the back. And now here inside is a little special treat. I did figure out a way to include lighting in those torches. It doesn't show up on camera very well, but what's really cool is I was actually able to figure out how to light these torches wirelessly. Let me know down in the comments if you can figure it out. I'm planning to show this off in a future video once I get the technology down right, but I am excited about it. In the meantime, this build was a little bit expensive, so if you could go ahead and like that smash button and do all that other YouTuber jazz, I'd really appreciate it. And again, let me know what you'd like to see me build next. I'm really excited to continue this project and eventually just have a giant Lego Minecraft world. Wouldn't that be cool? I'll catch you in the next one, blockheads. Toodles.